Somewhere, high above, the moon shines down, fat and full. But here, a January blizzard has choked the sky with snow. The wind rams full force down a deserted Main Street. The plows have given up long since. The flagman for the railroad company, Arnie West, has been caught in the signal shack 9 miles out of town, with his small gasoline-powered rail rider blocked by snow, as the wind rises to a shrill scream. But the wind doesn't scratch at doors. Arnie gets up, a cigarette jutting from his mouth, his face lit by the kerosene lantern on the wall. The scratching comes again. Someone's lost a dog, he thinks. It would be inhuman to leave it out there. Not that it's much warmer in here, in spite of the battery-powered heater. But still, he hesitates. Before he can decide, there is a thud as something heavy hits the door. A puff of snow billowing from the top. It draws back and hits again. The door trembles in its frame, and on the third blow, it splinters from top to bottom. It is the biggest wolf Arnie has ever seen, and in a moment, it will be inside. Arnie lunges for his pick in the corner and seizes it just as the wolf thrusts its way inside and crouches, yellow eyes gleaming, ears flattened back. Behind it, snow gusts in through the door. It springs with a snarl, and Arnie swings his pick once. Outside, the feeble light shines on the snow. The wind whips and howls, and the screams begin. Something has come to town, as unseen as the full moon riding the sky above. It is the Wolfman, and in this place where baked bean church suppers are a weekly event, and small children still bring apples to their teachers, where the events at the senior home are religiously reported in the weekly paper. Next week, there will be news of a darker variety. This year, Stella Randolph, who runs the Set and Sew, has received 20 Valentines, even one from John Travolta. She sent them all to herself, of course, as she did every year. They laugh at her. Small boys joke and snicker at her from behind their hands. Her store is failing, and she'd love to lose some weight. But still, on a night like this, with the moon so full, the world seemed full of possibilities. And suddenly, there is a scratching at the window. The moonlight has been blocked out by a dark shape. Stella rises, convinced this is a dream, but as her fingers fall on the cold window, she sees it is an animal out there. A huge, shaggy wolf. She thinks her eyes have deceived her even in a dream. It must be a man, she thinks, and he has come for her. She throws the window up, and the blast of cold air billowing her filmy blue nightgown tells her that this is no dream. She takes a shuddering step backward as the wolf leaps into her room and shakes itself, spraying a dreamy sugar puff of snow in the darkness. Too late, she remembers hearing of Arnie West, torn apart in the shack outside of town a few weeks before. Too late. Over coffee, the town librarian tells his wife that last night's winter storm has brought branches down all over town. And then the lights go out, and Donna Lee utters a gasping little scream and spills her coffee. As well as deadwood, Mother Nature has pruned a few power lines, coated with sleet until they have fallen on the road like a nest of snakes, lazily turning and spitting blue fire. The whole town goes dark. "You clean that up," Milton says coldly. You clean that up right now. The librarian is a thin man with a narrow head and pale blue eyes, and he has kept his pretty, silent wife in a bondage of terror for 12 years now. In the darkness, she fumbles for a dish towel and barks her shin on a footstool. She cries out. In the dark, her husband laughs heartily to himself. Not long before midnight, the temperature has plummeted to 16. In the night, something begins to howl. Sheriff Neely hears it at the bedroom window of his apartment in his long handles. Principal Parker from the grammar school hears it from his own bed, too. And Donna Lee hears it as her unpleasant husband snores beside her. But nobody sees it, and nobody knows the name of the drifter found chewed open the next morning, head cocked back in a silent scream, in a frozen pool of his own blood, his hands still held up in terror with ice between the fingers. And all around him are paw prints, wolf prints. By April, things are greening up. The townsfolk celebrate the warmer weather in small ways, despite the shadow that has fallen over town. Grandma Holly sets freshly baked pies out on the kitchen windowsill to cool. Chris Wright throws his annual spring drink-a-thon and staggers off in the silvery light of the April moon. Brady Kincaid, 12 years old, has gotten a kite for his birthday and has lost all track of time in watching it dip and swoop through the sky above the bandstand. He has forgotten about supper, unaware that the park has emptied, unaware that he is alone. He has laughed at his schoolmates' fanciful tales of the werewolf, but he doesn't laugh now. As the moon turns dusk into a bloody furnace glow, the stories seem all too real. He begins to wind his kite in as fast as he can when the breeze suddenly dies. As a result, the kite dives behind the bandstand. He starts toward it, glancing nervously back over his shoulder. And suddenly, the string begins to twitch and move in his hands, sawing back and forth like the way his fishing pole feels when he's hooked a big one. He looks at it, frowning, and the line goes slack. A shattering roar suddenly fills the night, and Brady screams. He believes the stories now, but it's too late. He is found the next day propped against the war memorial, disemboweled, the kite in one stiff hand. The church pews are always full on homecoming Sunday, and instead of looking out on benches half empty as he usually does, the Reverend Lester Lowe is preaching to a full house, preaching the greatest sermon of his life, and its subject is this: the beast walks among us. But here he breaks off because something terrible is happening. His congregation is changing into werewolves, all 300 of them. He stumbles back in horror as the head deacon shambles down the center aisle snarling. And now the sound is like the zoo at feeding time, and the Reverend Lowe screams out, "The beast! The beast is everywhere!" But his voice is no longer his voice, and when he looks down, he sees his hands have become snaggled paws. And then he awakes, trembling, bathed in sweat. Only a dream, thank God. But when he opens the church doors that morning, it is no dream he sees. It is the gutted body of the janitor, hanging face down over the pulpit. There's only one cafe in town, called the Chat and Chew, run by Ace Kohler. For the moment, the place is completely empty, and as he finishes polishing the counter to a gleaming brightness, he pauses, looking out into the street, and supposes the cafe is deserted because the wolfman walks when the moon is full. But Ace is 220 pounds of pure muscle, so he is neither scared nor worried, and he knows the regulars will be in for their coffee in the morning. Maybe, he thinks, I'll close up early tonight. He is turning toward the coffee maker when the door opens. It's one of his morning regulars. "How you doing?" he asks as the customer slips onto the padded red stool. Well, still time to catch the late show, Ace thinks to himself, turning back to the coffee maker. Shock wipes out the rest of his thought. The stainless steel of the appliance acts as a mirror, and in its surface he sees the customer's face shifting, thickening, melting, broadening, their shirt stretching, and absurdly, all Ace can think of is the Incredible Hulk. The customer's face becomes bestial. Their eyes have become a terrible golden green. The customer screams, but the scream drops like an elevator and becomes a bellowing growl of rage. It knocks over a sugar shaker and heaves it at the wall. Ace wheels around and his hip knocks the coffee urn off the shelf. It hits the floor with a bang and sprays hot coffee everywhere, burning his ankles, and he goes sprawling on the linoleum. The wolfman leaps. There is another shattering roar, a flood of yellow breath, and a great red pain as the creature's jaws sink into the muscles of Ace's back and rip upward. Blood sprays the floor, the counter, the grill. Ace staggers to his feet with a huge, ragged, spraying hole in his back. He is trying to scream, and white moonlight floods in through the windows and dazzles his eyes. Moonlight is the last thing he sees. 10-year-old Marty Coleslaw's family refused to spoil him just because he was in a wheelchair, and he gets remarkably little sympathy from them when he learns the town will not be celebrating his favorite holiday this year, the 4th of July. "Next year'll be twice as good," his dad Herman tells him with a clap on the back. "You'll see, buddy." "Ha ha, you finally didn't get something you wanted," says his big sister Kate. She's 13 and convinced that everyone only loves Marty because he can't walk. She is delighted that the fireworks have been canceled. Only Uncle Al had understood. Uncle Al drove a low-slung convertible. Marty's parents disapproved, but he loved it. Uncle Al took something out of the glove compartment, and as Marty rolled up, he put a bulky cellophane package on the boy's lap. "Here you go, kid," he said. "Happy 4th of July." Marty, absolutely stunned with joy, moved his lips to speak, but nothing came out. Uncle Al put a hand on Marty's head. "You celebrate after everyone else goes to bed. Don't shoot off the noisy ones, and for Christ's sake don't blow your hand off, or my big sis'll never speak to me again." Marty is the first one in bed that night. His parents come in to kiss him goodnight, and his father says, "Everything okay, big guy? You're off to bed real early." "Just tired," Marty mumbles. "Sorry about the fireworks, little man. Just wait till next year." It takes a long time for the rest of the house to go to bed. Maybe he slept, because suddenly, Marty realizes that the house is totally still. He takes the bag of fireworks along with the matches he found earlier and prepares to get out of bed. He grips the headboard, pulls himself up to a sitting position, and shifts his legs over the edge one by one. His wheelchair is on the brake, and he swings into it with confident ease. He pauses for a moment, listening to the silence of the house. Then he lets the brake off his chair and flips the power switch. The little amber eye, the one that means the battery is well charged, comes on in the dark, and the chair rolls forward, humming quietly. Marty slips the latch on the double doors and rolls outside. He can wait no longer. He tears open the bag of fireworks and brings out a snake, lights it, and watches in a trance as it splutters green-blue fire and grows magically. Marty lights another, and before it can go out, he lights a third, and the wonderful smell of spent powder fills the night. He gropes happily at the bag again, and comes out with the biggest rocket of all. He lights it with mixed fright and delight, and tosses it. Red light as bright as hellfire fills the night, and by this feverish glow, Marty sees the Wolfman. It begins to shamble up the slope towards where he sits, his eyes bulging, his upper body shrinking against the canvas back of his chair. Its thick upper lip wrinkles back to show heavy tusk-like teeth. It has almost reached him when the boy remembers the packet of firecrackers. He strikes a match and touches it to the fuse, which spits a line of red sparks that crisp the hair on the back of his hand. The werewolf draws backwards. Marty throws the packet of firecrackers in its face. They go off in a banging, flashing train of light and sound. The beast utters a screech roar of pain and rage and agony, and as the first lights go on in the house, it bounds back into the woods. The next day, Marty's parents bundle him off to his aunt and uncle in Vermont, where he will stay until the end of summer. After all, the police concur that the full moon killer might try to attack Marty again. "I think it's a werewolf," Sheriff Neely says in Stan's barbershop, and all other talk comes to a halt. "In the sense of it being an animal inside and looking perfectly normal outside, yeah. But if you think there's a guy who sprouts hair and howls at the moon, no, that shit's for kids." In truth, he feels exasperated about what's happened with Marty, the first eyewitness to the killer, and is he allowed to interview the boy? No. He's had to make do with a deposition sent by the state, and he had to just a damn about beg to get that much, all because he doesn't have one of their dumb fuck Smokey Bear hats. And the deposition, he might as well have used it to wipe his ass. According to the kid, this beast stood about 7 feet tall, covered with dark hair all over his body. He had giant teeth and green eyes and smelled like a load of panther shit. In his disgust and disappointment, the sheriff overlooked this line. 4 fireworks went off at the side of his face, and I guess maybe put his eye out, his left eye. There was only one townsperson sporting an eye patch, and Neely would have believed his own mother the killer before that person. "There's only one thing that will solve this case," he says, "and that's good police work." But Neely's good police work comes to an end that night, as he sits parked at the crossing point of 2 dirt roads. The beast claws at him through the window of his pickup, almost playfully, and one of his cheeks is ripped away in a flap, exposing his teeth on the right side. Blood spouts everywhere, and as the werewolf reaches for Neely's throat, he forgets all about the gun strapped on his belt. Instead, he reaches for the creature's face, hoping madly that the mask will pull off and he will see the killer. But nothing happens. Nothing except a roar of pain and rage from the beast. It swipes at him again, and blood jets over the truck's windshield and dashboard, dripping into the beer bottle tilted against the sheriff's crotch. The werewolf howls, then yanks him half out of the cab and buries its face in Neely's neck, while the gurgling beer from the spilled bottle foams on the floor. So much for good police work. As the month wears on and the next full moon approaches, the frightened townsfolk wait for a break in the heat, but no such break comes. Milt, the librarian, puts his wife in the hospital over a dirty dish. He will tell the doctor that Donna Lee fell down the back stairs. Around 2 a.m, a dreadful squealing arises from the pig pen at Zimmerman Farm outside of town. Elmer Zimmerman goes for his rifle, in his pajama pants and slippers. His wife pleads and begs and cries, wanting him not to go out. But he is going. Nothing can make him not go, he tells her. And then he freezes with one hand on the door as a screaming howl rises in the night. It is a wolf cry, and he allows Alice to pull him back into the living room, and there they sit like 2 frightened children. Now the crying of the pigs begins to stop. The beast howls again, its cry as silver as the moon. Elmer goes to the window and sees something go bounding off into the deeper darkness.
Trick or treat!
When Marty comes home from trick-or-treating on Halloween night with the batteries in his wheelchair all but dead, he goes directly to bed. The October full moon has come and gone with no attack. The 2nd month in a row this has happened. Some believe that the terror is over, that the killer was a drifter and now he has moved on. Others are not so sure. But Marty knows who the werewolf is, and not just because the man who placed candy in his bag tonight was wearing an eye patch. There was something else too, a vital similarity in the man's human face to the snarling face that Marty saw on that silvery summer night. Until tonight, Marty had not seen the one-eyed man, as he lives on the far side of town, and Marty's family rarely attends church. The man with the eye patch, who dropped a chunky bar into Marty's bag and smiled, the wolf man, is the Reverend Lester Lowe. Snow is coming, the weatherman says, and this is the 4th day that the men have headed out with dogs and guns and a great many 6-packs of beer. Hunting season may be over, but it's still open season on werewolves. The last of the trucks drives out of sight, horn honking, dogs barking in the back. Reverend Lowe closes the door firmly, goes inside the parlor where the grandfather clock ticks solemn ticks and talks solemn talks. He sits down and opens his new letter. Like the others, it is unsigned. Written in the center of a sheet torn from a lined notepad is the sentence, "Why don't you kill yourself?" Lowe crumples the sheet of paper up and puts it in the large glass ashtray in the center of the table. He takes a match and lights the note as he has lit the others. He watches it burn. Lowe's knowledge of what he is has come in 2 stages. Following his nightmare in May and his terrible discovery of the janitor's body, he has begun to realize that something is wrong with him. He shrugs off clothes that are muddy and torn, scratches and bruises he cannot account for, but they never hurt. He has even been able to ignore traces of blood he has sometimes found on his hands and lips. Then the 2nd stage. He had awakened blind in one eye. At that point, the knowledge had become too great for denial. He is the beast. He is the wolf man. Tonight the moon will rise full, and the hunters will be out with their dogs. Well, no matter, the Reverend thinks. They see only in terms of the wolf, not the man. They can drive in their pickups, and he can drive in his small sedan down to Portland and stay in some motel. And if the change comes, there will be no hunters, no dogs. but they are not the ones who frighten him. Why don't you kill yourself? The first note that came simply said, I know who you are. The second said, if you are really a man of God, go someplace where there are animals for you to kill, but no people. The third simply said, end it. And now, why don't you kill yourself? Because I don't want to, the reverend thinks. This is nothing I asked for. I wasn't bitten by a wolf or cursed by a witch. It just happened. I am a man of God, and I will not kill myself. I do good here. And if I sometimes do evil, why, evil also serves the will of God. He begins to walk faster and faster, bent low, unaware that his beard has sprung out thick and wiry, and that his words are growing lower and lower, more and more like growls. At last, as the gray afternoon tightens down toward an early anvil-colored dusk, he bounds into the kitchen, snatches the keys, and almost runs to the car. He drives to Portland fast, smiling, sensing the moon above the clouds. Its power. His chest expands, straining the seams of his shirt. And what happens later that night might just be a judgment from God, because Lowe has gone all the way to Portland to become the beast, and the man he ends up ripping open on that snowy November night is Milton the librarian, who has come telling his battered wife Donna Lee that he is here on business, but his business is Rita Tennyson. All three have checked into a motel called the Driftwood. Milt steps out at 10:15 to retrieve a bottle of bourbon from the car, when the one-eyed beast leaps on him from the roof and takes his head off with one swipe. And the next day, back home and feeling just great, the Reverend Lowe will read about the murder in the newspaper and think, all things serve the Lord. And following this, he thinks, it's time to find out who is sending the notes. All things serve the Lord. If it's the Lord's will, I will find him and silence him forever. After her husband's death, Donna Lee moved out of town before the new year, and Grandma Holly died of a heart attack. Principal Parker is diagnosed as acute hypertensive and loses 20 pounds by Christmas. Brady Kincaid, killed by the beast in kite-flying season, is still dead, and Marty, who used to sit right behind Brady in school, is still in his wheelchair. The year is ending as it came in, a howling blizzard, and the Wolfman around somewhere. Sitting in the living room, Marty and his Uncle Al are watching Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve. There's a gun in Marty's lap. 2 bullets are chambered in the gun, and both of them are pure silver. Uncle Al had a friend of his make them. Al hadn't been to visit since July, and as he predicted, his sister was furious about the fireworks. Then a call came from Marty. It's important, Marty said. So he came, and braved his sister's icy silence on a cold December day, and took Marty for a ride in his sports car. Marty began by telling about the night of the fireworks, and how he had blown out the creature's left eye. Then he told him about Halloween, and the Reverend Lowe, and the notes. He'd kept them anonymous until the last 2. Those he signed just as he had been taught in English class. "Christ, Marty," Uncle Al said sharply. "Did it ever occur to you that you could be wrong?" "That's why I signed my name to the last 2, Marty said. Aren't you going to ask if he called my father to tell him I'd sent him a note saying to kill himself? Al knew the answer already. He hasn't talked to my dad, and he hasn't talked to my mom, and he hasn't talked to me, Marty said quietly. He is the Wolfman, and he's waiting for the full moon. Uncle Al's coming for New Year's Eve, Marty announced 4 days later on December 10th. He certainly is not, his mother says in her coldest tone. His mother spent the rest of the day glaring at Marty every time she looked in his direction. But she didn't call her brother back and tell him not to come, and that was the most important thing. At supper that night, Marty's sister Katie hissed in his ear, "You always get what you want, just because you can't walk." Grinning, Marty whispered back, "I love you too, sis." When New Year's Eve arrived, Marty's mother was sure Al wouldn't show as the storm intensified. But there he was around 8, driving a borrowed 4-wheel drive. By 11:30, everyone in the family had gone to bed except for the two of them. The television switches to the ball in Times Square, and the crowd cheers. In the corner across from the TV, the Christmas tree still stands, sadly denuded of its presence. Then the window in the family room blows inward in a twinkle of glass, letting in the howling black wind, twisting skirls of snow, and the Wolfman. Al is utterly frozen with horror and disbelief. Its one green eye fixes upon Marty, and it leaps at the boy, howling through its huge yellow teeth. Calmly, Marty raises the pistol, and over the howling, and over the wind, Al hears his nephew say, "Poor Reverend Lowe, this will set you free." And as the werewolf leaps, its claws outstretched, Marty fires. The gun makes an almost absurdly insignificant pop, but the werewolf's roar is a lunatic screech of pain now. Blood is pouring down the savage, hairy face, and its green eye seems in a daze. It crashes into the wall and staggers toward Marty, growling, its snapping jaws cutting off wads of blood-streaked foam. Marty holds the gun in both hands, as a child holds a cup of juice. And as the werewolf lunges again, he fires. The beast's other eye blows out like a candle. It screams again and staggers blind toward the window. The blizzard riffles the curtains and twists them around its head, and flowers of blood begin to bloom on the white cloth. The Wolfman collapses to its knees, shudders once, and dies. Marty turns to his uncle, the smoking gun in his hands. "Happy New Year, Uncle Al," he says. His face looks tired, but at peace. The beast is dead. And as his father runs into the room in yellow pajamas, the boy begins to weep. On the floor, under the white curtains, the werewolf has begun to change. The hair seems to be pulling in somehow. The lips relax and cover shrinking teeth. The claws melt magically away to fingernails. The reverend lies there, wrapped in a bloody shroud of curtain, snow blowing around him in random patterns. As on TV, the big lighted ball begins to descend in Times Square. Marty's dad gawks down at the naked body as his mother creeps into the room clutching the neck of her robe. Outside, the wind howls and screams against the snow-filled sky. Uncle Al goes to Marty and hugs him tight, tight, tight. "You did good," he whispers. "I love you, kid." And the first minute of the new year becomes history.